Welcome back to a new Hack the Box machine today. In this video, we're going to go over jail. Jail is a very tough and hard machine. As you can see from the rating, most of the guys here have rated it as a difficult machine. And if you click on that, you would see that the rating equals to, as an average, 7.3 out of 10. So, but it is a great learning experience. There are many concepts that you will be learning in case you are a beginner, but it requires a bit of knowledge in buffer overflow. But anyway, let's just dig in. Now, basically, this is the nmap scan. Nmap scan shows we have five open ports. Now, among these ports, we have NFS shares. So it's pretty good idea to check on the NFS shares the first thing and see what are the shares before we dig into other ports. Now, so let's now use the show mount -e. So we need the IP address. Let me check on the. All right, so this is IP. All right, paste. So we have two shares, opt and NFS share. Now we want to know as well what are the permissions on these shares. So, but before doing that, let's mount these shares, right? So we can work on them. Let me make two directories on my local machine. cd or make sudo make directory jail as a workspace. cd jail. All right, and in here sudo make directory opt and sudo make directory. Let's name it as var. So let's mount these two shares. Sudo mount, specify the type, NFS, and the IP. Opt, and we mount this to opt. We repeat the same with var, NFS, share, and we mount this to var. So let's say I have opt and var. Let's see the permissions on these directories. So as you can see here, opt, it is owned by root, and we can only write and execute on this. Var, as you can see, we can read and execute, here we can write and execute as mounted. Now, if we cd to opt ls, you can see we have log reader and rh. See the permissions, log reader and rh. So if you cat log reader, see what it does. Cd log reader. Let's read the script. Bin bash, bin cat, home frank logs, check. So it's not pretty much something we can use. Let's cd back. Go to var, ls. Permission denied. Why is that? Check on the permissions. So me as Motor can only write and execute. I cannot read on this. All right. So who can read? Only the root user. And in opt, that's why we were able to read the content of the opt directory, but not on the var. So in order to be able to read on that directory, we need to change on the permissions, but right now we can't since we don't have access to the machine. But that's for the NFS shares. So our next objective here is to have access to the var directory in some way. Alright, so for now, nothing to do further with NFS unless we get access to the machine, or until we get access to the machine. Now, let's see the web server. So the web server displays like a diagram of a jail layout. Now, if you run directory search, and the word list, now at the end of this scan, there will be a directory revealed. The directory name is, just to save time, jail user. Now in jail user, there is another directory, dev. In dev, we have compile jail, jail.c. So let's take these files in our local machine and see what they do. So, or let me stop this. You can just try it on your own. Now, save these files. Keep jail. All right. Let's see where these files are. Let's copy these files. No paste. All right, this is very stupid. I mean, so home compile sh, right? Jail. And also we have jail. So we have jail, and what's left is this file. So we're gonna use this, use wget to retrieve the jail.c. So sudo wget jail.c. So we have the file here. Now, let's see now what is compile with sh cat compile. So what it does, it compiles the jail.c file into jail. As you can see, execute this as a stack. Then it adds this as a service to be run, and then it runs the service. So compile, let's run compile, right, to give us, or let's cat first jail.c to understand what it does. Let's see. All right, well, let's use more friendlier view. So this is C file. Let's see what it does. So basically here, as you can see, we have username and password being used as arguments in the authentication function here. And we have plain text credentials, admin, and 174 jailbreak. So we're going to use these set of credentials, admin, and password. Now, what caught my eye more than that is if we go down, you see here we have a buffer size 1024, and buffer size for username and password. But if we go down a bit, see here, there's a port 7411. So if we get back to the nmap scan, there was a port open, which is 7411, which explains what is the jail now, how it works. So basically, jail listens on 7411, the jail application, listens on that port, and we, in order to interact with the jail, we have to connect to that port. Now, part of the puzzle is being revealed. So after I connect, maybe I have to supply username and password, admin and 1974 jailbreak. That is the second node. The third node, user pass 16. So here is, as you can see, we have a user pass and the number of characters are 16. As you can see here, the let's go down, see why this variable is vulnerable to buffer overflow. So if you go more down, scroll down. All right, so here it is. So basically, these are the two arguments, right? As you can see, taken from the command line. Now, the user pass is one of them, as you can see, and it's 16 character, and there is no check on this variable, right? If we supplied more than 16 characters, that's why it is buffer overflowable. So if we exit out from here and we give the compile.sh permissions to run, now we run to compile.sh, right, in order to start working with the jail binary. So we have to test this out first on our local machine, and then we have to transfer over what we have learned from interacting with the app to the target machine. So let's run compile sh. Failed to start jail.service, unit jail.service not found, permission denied. Okay, all right. Not loaded, not found. All right, let's connect now to the target machine. Try this on the target machine first. And the port is 7411. So send user command, let's apply it as admin. Or type user admin. Password from the code here, the password is 1974 jailbreak. Okay, authentication success, send command. Okay, let's use ls, invalid command. Let's take a look more at the source code. See why it doesn't work. So there is a debug mode here, as you can see, equal to 0, and we need to know how to invoke this debug mode. So as you can see here, if we type debug, okay, in the user as a username, it will enable the debug mode. Let's see what this does. So one more time, connect. Okay, let's send user command, debug. Debug mode is on. Now set user equal admin, password 174. So what's the difference between the debug mode and the non-debug mode? So the password was this. So user pass buffer. So as you can see here, the user pass, right, variable in the code, the address of this variable has been revealed, and this is the address, which makes the buffer overflow now more clear. But the exploitation part will be different since the address is revealed now, so we don't need to look for the address. So we are in front of our buffer overflow vulnerability. Let's see how we can exploit this. And we put the pattern we have created. All right, let's see here. So the segmentation fault, as you can see, occurred because of the pattern we have just sent. Now we have to find the offset. Now the offset needs to be, we have to feed this address, right? So let's find the offset, and then we can see how far away we are from the return address. Pattern, search, and this is the address. And type 50, since the pattern consists of 50 characters. So as you can see here, the EIP is at the offset of 28. So we know how far we are away from the return address. So now we have to fill the EIP with the 28 characters, and then we put our shellcode. So it's time to create the exploit. But for creating the exploit, we have to understand that if we, let me open a new tab here to make some point. So basically, before creating the exploit, we have to understand the bad characters. What are the bad characters? Now, if we use check sec on jail, see, I forgot to check sec options. Oh, dash hash file. So the good thing is no ACLR, but the bad thing is the memory addresses are changed every time. Now to overcome this, first we will have to consider what are the bad characters, right? And then we need to find out the address of the variable that we are going to overflow. Lucky for us, the address has been revealed here. When you connect, if you remember the first time you connected, it revealed the address of the, let's look at the address of the variable here. Let's see. مستحيل يا معلم، المفروض مستحيل، ما بقدر اعملها. كس اختشوا بسرعة يا زلمة. So as you can see here, we have NX disabled. That's good, no ACLR protection, but PIE is enabled, position independent executable enabled, which means that the memory addresses are changed every time you start the executable. So, but if you remember, when we connect first to the application, let's connect it to our connection. Illustrate this more. Where is the IP? Come on, making my life miserable. All right, connect. Seven four one one. User admin. Anything? Nope. Path is 174, something like jailbreak. Jailbreak. No, didn't work. I wanted to find the address of this. Previously, it revealed the address, but now I can't get it to work. I don't know why. Oh, I have to enable the debug mode. So debug. So user admin pass blah. So since the memory address, as you can see, of the variable user pass, which is the vulnerable to buffer overflow, is revealed here, we don't have to worry about this, right? Because we will use that address while creating our shellcode. Now, for the bad characters, before we create the payload, we have to find out the bad characters. If you read the code one more time, nano jail, no, nano jail, let's see, go down. As you can see here, there is a variable defined, or actually it is, as you can see here, containing the new line and x00. So basically, this is known as a bad character. But what about the new line? How can we evade this? Why I'm saying that? Because our IP address contains 10, I guess. So when the IP address contains 10, it's an issue actually when there is new line represented as bad character, because the new line, when we convert it to hex, this hexadecimal, it is backslash x0a, all right, and a in decimal is 10. So basically, this will thwart any attempt to connect back to our machine, since, as I said earlier, the new line in hex corresponds to x or to backslash x0a, and a in decimal, right, equals to 10, and 10 happens to be part of our IP address, so it's not going to work like that. So we will have to use socket reuse exploit. I'm going to say what is that in a while, so let me exit out from here, get back to... Okay, so let's first go to, let me grab the address. All right, so let's see here, see socket reuse exploit. We're looking to find the code, say reuse shellcode. So we can use this one. It doesn't contain the bad characters, right, in our exploit. And since we have the memory address, it's not going to be a problem. Now, let's take all of this. I'll keep it here. Now let's proceed to write the exploit. So sudo Python jail.py. Okay, so we're going to need to import the pawn from Python. Yeah, okay. From phone import. استغفر الله العظيم استغفر الله العظيم. Clear. Now creating the exploit sudo nano Python jail UI. Okay, from pawn import everything. We need the pawn library, and then we will import struct because we will need to use the C structs with Python. Struct. I forgot to add the shebang. User then. Now the shellcode will be equal to the shellcode here for the socket reuse. Because we don't want, as I said earlier, we don't want the new line bad character to prevent the exploit from working. So this is the shellcode, and now we create the payload. So the payload equal to, as I said earlier, A's times 28 times, because the pattern offset is 28, plus we use a struct function with back. All right, so here we type I, and then we type the address. So the address we have found earlier is the address of, I guess I need to save this because debug user admin pass whatever. So we take this and we add the address of the overflow variable here. Okay. And finally, we add the shellcode and the payload is complete. Now the next thing is the networking part. So we need to connect to the target, right, and send out the username and the password. The password will be the payload or will be added to the payload. So R equal remote. The IP address of the machine is again, damn. Let's see. All right, and the port 7411. So you connect first, and then we send the debug mode. It is very important to enter the debug mode from the exploit r.send line debug. And then we print what we received. Then we send the username. User, let's say admin, receive. and then we send the password with the payload. Plus the payload. Since the segmentation fault happens in the password variable, we have to send the payload at this time, or in this place. r.interactive. All right, the exploit is done. Now it's time now to connect. So sudo python jail syntax error, invalid syntax. Let's check it out. Okay, yes, that's right. So we have to remove this one, get this one up. And repeat the same on the rest. This way, it's gonna work. All right. So we run the exploit. Seems like something has opened. ID. Oh, so it worked. As you can see, we are the nobody. So we are nobody. Not actually true, but here we are nobody. Now, if you remember earlier in the challenge, we mentioned something about the NFS shares, and we found that the var directory, the permissions on that directory prevented us from reading the contents of it. So let's figure out what's happening in there. So cd var as you can see, we were able to read that, the contents of that directory. So see here, the NFS share, the one that created the problem. Look at the permissions of that directory. So Frank is the user who is able to write and execute on NFS share. Now on opt, cd opt, or ls-la opt, cd opt. Okay, so here it is for the opt directory. Now let's get back to, no, we're done with this now, I guess. Let's exit out, ls-la. So in the local machine, var, as you can see, my username has write and execute, but not read. Now the user here, Frank, on NFS share has the same. He can only write and execute. But in opt, only the root user can read and write in here. Oh, ما بعرف أشرح صراحة. So the Frank user, as you can see here, has actually write and execute permissions on the NFS share, which is something that we want. So in order to do that, we will have to escalate the privileges from the nobody to Frank at first. So basically, let's first list out the users, cat etc pass wd. So as you can see, Frank has UID and GID of 1000. Now, if you write a small C program that sets the UID and GID of the user to 1000, respectively, for the GID and the UID, we will be able to switch from the nobody to Frank, which is the first step. Now, what do we have else? We have another user called ADM, which stands for admin 34. If you type sudo -l, you can see something else for the privilege escalation, but let's wait the output. So it is for log reader, but it can be run as Frank. But technically, if you run log reader as a Frank, it won't do anything for you. Now, let's create a small C program, guys, that switch our or elevate our privileges from nobody to Frank, so we can control the var directory. So now let's type sudo nano frank c. So in here, include again include. So here we need the library, std library, and we need the unistate library. So uni-std.h. There are more than one way to write such C programs in order to change your GID and UID. Main so here set I need to set RUID RE. It will be for 1000 1000. Print F. So we will print out the ID, right? The current ID and the ID that we have set. So here we type target ID, or say current ID is, don't forget to account for the decimal. Here we need a new line. And now we type get ID. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Next we print here the real ID, right? We want, what is the real ID. So here we type real ID is, again, take this. But instead we use the get UID instead of the first one we used in the first print statement. Execute bin sh to convert the user from nobody to the one that has the 1000 as a UID and 1000 as a GID. Now, what we will do now, let's compile this. Sudo gcc frank. Let's see frank. Uh, Seems like we need to modify on that. So it doesn't recognize the library, so I guess we will have to modify on the script, on the code. Nope, we don't need actually because they have a typo here. There is a typo. I remember this. Try now. So after we switch to Frank, as you can see here, the directory var, which is the shared one that has been mounted, as you can see, has Frank that can write and execute. So we created user Frank, made sure that Frank has the UID and GID of 1000, and then we tested a file, touch.txt, from the var directory, and it worked. Now we will create actually I created the C script, C code that will change the UID of the nobody and GID to 1000. Take a look at the code, nanofrank.c, paste. Oh, no, okay. Let's exit without saving. So nanofrank.c. As you can see here, it just changed the UID and the GID to 1000. Now I give this permissions, u plus s, and there's a need to put s here at the suit bit set so we can execute it as its owner. Oh, I have to compile it first. So gcc frank.c-o frank id frank user. Yep. So compile this. Now we give it permissions. Frank user. No. Frank user. So if we go now to the, as you can see, I have made attempts here to get this working, and this is the nobody session. Now I am in NFS shared. If I execute Frank user, it should now switch to the user Frank, or I should elevate now my privilege. So ID, and as you can see, I am Frank here. So we have successfully elevated the privileges from nobody to Frank. Now, to grab the first flag, we go to home, ls cd Frank, ls cat user.txt. And that's your first flag. Now, the next attempt here, or the next step, is to escalate to the ADM user, or the admin user we have found earlier. So cat etc pass wd. You see here there is a user called ADM, so you will have to switch to that user. Now, upon typing sudo-l, we see we can execute the rvim right as ADM. Now we are done with Frank. Now we have to do it with ADM. So let's take this and execute this as ADM or admin sudo -u ADM and paste. So this is to record the required enter. Quit. Still Frank. So this is the jail they are talking about actually. I can't break out of this. Okay, so here let me type Edit. No, I'm not gonna edit. Yeah, edit. ID. And now we are ADM, as you can see. So just it worked away with Python, and then we edited the file, and we were able to escalate to ADM. So now we have escalated the privileges from nobody to Frank, and from Frank to ADM. Now the next step is to escalate to root user. So let's see here, what do we have? ls-la. Okay, cd home. No ADM, right? ID, make sure actually ADM. No such file. So now we are ADM, right? Now, next step is to find out how we can move up from ADM to root. So let's see where we are first. We are in var ADM. Now let's the contents of the directory ls-la. So we have keys here. Okay, let's now view the content of that cd.keys. Now we have local keys.rar and note. Let's see what is the content of the note. I'm saying, note from the administrator, Frank, for the last time, your password for anything encrypted must be your last name followed by a 4-digit number and a symbol, which is the note here for accessing or for concluding a password, which will be used for the privilege escalation. So basically, last name followed by 4-digit number and a symbol. Okay, let's see what we have in the local. Cat Frank. So this is ciphertext, by the way. We will have to decrypt this. In order to decrypt that, we're going to use a tool. Let me point out that tool here. Okay. This is technically the cryptogram solver. So just paste the cipher and click on solve. So it's saying here, haha, nobody will guess my new password. Only a few lucky souls have escaped from Alcatraz alive like I did. So this is indicative that there is something here that we can take to find the password. So here Alcatraz, and if you Google Alcatraz here, Frank Alcatraz, the username is Frank, and mention something about Alcatraz. Alcatraz. It shows us the person that has escaped the Alcatraz. So the name is Frank Morris, and if you add this up to the note here, your password should be anything encrypted must be your last name followed by a 4-digit number and a symbol. Now the last name here is Morris. We'll have to find the 4-digit number. The 4-digit number actually is the date 1962 of the it's the date where Alcatraz has escaped from the prison. So as you can see here, followed by a 4-digit number and a symbol. But anyway, this is only a guess. We will have to follow a more systematic way in order to find the password. But still, nonetheless, we don't know where to use this password yet. We have hints about the password, but we don't know where to use this password. So the only thing left here from the ADM is the keys.rar. So you'll have to transfer this key or this RAR file to my local machine and find out what it's about. Now, basically, I tried to transfer this file using netcut, but it didn't work because there could be a firewall. So we used base64 to transfer the file. All right, so we will have to encode this first, base64, or where we are first, either ls cd back, ls cd back, ls-a. So keys.rar, base 64 key or error. So this is the base64. Take this and onto my local machine. So here, okay, so here we will take the new base64 we have got, sudo nano keys or the base64, paste that value here, and then we'll take the value, which is here, save it, and then we will have to decode it, sudo base 64-d keys. And then we decode the file here that I just created, base 64-d keys, RAR. Now let's use John Derper or rar to John to extract the hash from this. So rar to John keys.rar into hash. What is that? S get hash. Okay, so this is the hash for the public. As you can see, it seems to be a public key, right? Root authorized SSH key.pup. So this is a public key, we will have to crack it. Now, we said earlier that there are some hints about the password and that the person who has escaped Alcatraz, his last name was Morris and the date of the escape was 1962, which means that we will have to create a word list with crunch to satisfy this criteria. Now, since Morris is 5 characters and we have 4 digits, makes it 10, and one symbol makes it 11, so we'll have to create one word list with 11 characters minimum as a minimum and a maximum number of characters. So crunch 11 11, and now we will have to rename the word list -o jail v2 -f user share. Here we have to set the character list char set.lst symbols all -f. One example. What do we have here? Specify a file name and character set. Okay, dash of user share crunch char set. All right, what's the problem here? Oh, it's not F, it is T. So taking a look at the word list, JLV2. All right. Now we are ready, guys, to crack the password. So we use John the Ripper on the hash that you have just created, John -- format equal rar because it's a compressed file -- word list equal jail v2 we have just created, and the file is hash. So the password is Morris1962 and exclamation mark, which is the password for cracking the public key. So ls, and now we unrar the file. So unrar -x keys no. Oh, again. So it is not dash. Here we have only X. And the password is, let's see the password. This is the password. So now we have extracted the public key, ls, and this is the public key, cat root. Fine, now we have to extract the private key from this public key, and we can use now RSA CTF tool to find this. So I guess I have this in my machine, cd back, ls. Okay, here it is, cd rsa. All right, so let's launch the tool. Dash public key. And define the location of the public key, which is in home. And this is the public key, dash private. Okay, root key. And successfully found the private key. Now, we take the private key here. As you can see, we will have to use this. ls. So this is the root key. Give it permissions, the proper permissions, of course, which is 400 root key. And now we log in to the target machine with that key, and hopefully we will be root. -i root root key, right? And then root at 10 10 10 3 4. Type yes. Root password. Interesting. Let's take this private key then. All right, and cd back, cd jail, root key. root key. And now we will log in. Hopefully it's going to work. Nope. ID. cd root s cat root. And this is the flag. Let's test this out. Jail. Difficult raising. Actually, it's very difficult. It's very tough. I made many attempts to root this machine, and finally it was successful. So basically, I'm going to put 9. Okay, here you have it. We broke out of the jail.